Hello and welcome to episode 2 of the Python game programming tutorial series. We're using PyGame to make some 2D games, and we're getting right to work today. So in episode 1, we went over how to install Python, how to install PyGame, and I had you guys download PyCharm. If you remember, we created our folder, we made a file, we tested, and then we got rid of the file. Now, if you just open up PyCharm from wherever it is, either your taskbar or your desktop, it'll be in one of those two places. If not, it should be somewhere here in your start folder. It'll be down under the P's. Somewhere in there. Oh, wait, no, it's S, so Sublime Text. Wait, what am I thinking? PyCharm? Yeah, PyCharm would be in the P's. Anyways, we open up our game. Now, whether or not you are following along with the maze game, this file will be very important for you to learn how to write. This is the basic screen file. It's going to set up the game window, and that's all we're going to work on today. So, I like to call this a game, because if you ever package this game and you turn it into an executable file, whatever your main file is, whatever this file is named, is what they will have to click on, so it'll be game.exe in this case. Now, first thing, we need to do a few things. We need to import some files. Actually, let's just make a task list here. First thing we need to do, we need to import some files. The next thing we need to do is we need to do our screen setup. And then we need to create some variables. We're going to need to make a while loop. We're going to make an event loop, and I'll explain this all as we get there. And then we're going to need to do graphics. And then we're going to need to have some sort of end program. A way to end the program. We're doing all this today. It really won't take very much code. So the first thing we need to do is import, I shouldn't be capitalizing import, is import PyGame. So we're going to need PyGame, of course. Now, the next thing we're going to do is, so I'm trying to think, what's the best way to do this? Do we do it in their own files? Yeah, we will, okay. So really quickly, before we continue, right-click on our maze game folder and create a new Python file. Call this data. And I'll show you why in just a second. Call this data, and I actually probably need to make this code a little bit bigger. There we go. We're going to call this data. And the first thing we're going to do is say window_scale equals 1. And this is just an integer that we're creating so that we can resize the game, the window that we are in, without having to change any numbers. All we'll have to do is change this from 1 to 5, which whatever. It's the only place that we have to change a variable in order to get everything else to work. Scale of our window. Now, the next thing we need to do is create something which I like to call WindowDams. It stands for window dimensions, and it's going to be a list. This list is very simply going to be, let's say, int 800 times window scale, comma, comma outside of the parentheses. We don't want the integer to be past arguments. Int 600 times window scale. So for those of you who don't know what this means, int, open parenthesis, and then the close parenthesis, it means anything we put in here is going to be turned into an int. So it's just going to have any of its floating points chopped off. Because for a window, you can't have something that's 21.7 pixels wide, or 300.2 pixels tall. So this is going to make sure that whatever these values end up as, they are always going to be integers. So this is going to basically hold a width and height for the game. And that'll be good. So we can save that, just tap Control S and come back over to game. Now, directly underneath where we're importing PyGame, we're going to also import data. So data is going to go gray, just like PyGame is, but what that's doing is that is saying we can now reference this data folder. Or this, not folder, this data file. I say that a lot. I say folder when I mean file, but it'll be okay. We can now reference this data file. So now, in our main game, we need to start PyGame. this is done by using the PyGame.init function. It's going to allow us to actually use PyGame now. Even though we've imported PyGame, PyGame won't really work properly, at least screens won't work properly until we initialize PyGame. It has to be done at least one place in your code. In other files, we can import PyGame and just use it right away because we've initialized it in our actual game, our main file. So this will initialize PyGame so we can use it. The next thing we need to do is actually create the variable for our screen. Oh, and by the way, we've taken care of all of our file imports. We need to create a variable for the screen. So we're on to screen setup right here. So screen setup is going to be screen is equal to pygame.display.setMode. So what setMode does is creates a new screen, a new display object, which in Pygame is called a surface, and it requires two arguments. It requires a width argument and a line or a height argument, and it wants them in a list. So we have a list right here, WindowDams. This is our width and our height. So how do we get WindowDams into here? Well, we named the file data. So if we call data, we're now using that file. So we're going to use something called dot notation, which is when you say, okay, so I want to look inside of data, I'm going to use a dot. And take a look at that. All I did was hit dot, and WindowDams is going to pop up. So I can highlight that, and I can click enter, or I can type in WindowDams. Now, WindowDams is a list, so we need to choose which part of the list we want. In this case, the 0th index 0 of this list is our width. Index 1 of this list is our height. So as you can see so easily here, data.windowDimensions of 0 is our width, and data.windowDims of 1 is our height. That was really easy, right? Perfect. So let's go ahead and write the pseudocode up here so it doesn't fly off the screen. Create a new surface object with a width and height. Now, the next thing we need to do is give our surface a name. So up here, I've got maze game dash square bracket c colon slash user slash digit. You know, that up here in my title, my screen. If we open up our file explorer, our title is the word file explorer. So we want to give our window a title, basically. And we can do this by saying pygame.display.setCaption. It simply takes a string, and it's going to be the string for the name. So for what we're doing, if you're following along with me, this will be maze game. If you're not following along with me and you're just using the tutorials for reference, of course, this will be whatever you have decided to call your game. So we've got that set up. That's our screen setup. Bam, we're getting pretty close. Now, variables we've already partially set up in here. We're going to set up the rest of them in here now. I'm going to create a variable called running. It's a Boolean. And this is just going to basically be whether, is that the way you spell it? Whether, if the game is running or not, because I don't know which form of weather to use here. So anyways, if the game is running or not is what that's saying. Clock, we're going to use the clock variable to control how many frames each, or how many updates we get per second. So we can use this to kind of set an FPS inside of the game, and it'll make it easier when we come to actually moving the player around on the screen. So clock is going to be equal to pygame.time.clock, and clock is capitalized. Of course, as soon as you type start, you can start, I think, no, it won't automatically correct it for you. But as soon as you start typing it, you put in the capital C, it'll automatically show you pygame.time.clock, and you can go bam, just hit enter while it's selected, and it pops in. So this will be a variable to handle times and frames, basically. Now, our variable should be set up for the most part. We're getting close. We have to start our while loop. So our while loop is really easy. While running, do something. And now, so the while loop's done. We're going to really quickly write the end program, then we'll come back and do the rest of these. So while running, pass pygame.quit. So let's see what this says right here. This is going to say while our running variable is true, do something. Very simply put. Right now we're just using pass because I don't want to put anything in there and I don't want it returning an error yet. Our event loop and all of our graphics are going to go inside of this running loop because you want to make sure the game's running to be calculating your event stuff. Now, if the game is not running, if we decide at any point in time to set this running variable to false, which means the game is no longer running, we want it to automatically quit. So as soon as it's no longer running, you'll go to the next line of code, which is pygame.quit, and this does the opposite of what pygame.init does. It kills PyGame. And it's done. PyGame will be taken care of. It doesn't like the spelling at PyGame either. It thinks we spell it wrong every time. So we got our end program finished. Now, graphics handling in our event loop. Our event loop is a little chaotic to write at first, but I'll try to go nice and slow and explain what I'm doing. The first thing we want to do is check every single event PyGame could possibly be giving us. So we're going to do that with 4 events. Wow. In pygame.event.get. So pygame.event.get is the function that will get every single event that's being run in PyGame. And we're giving them the name event by saying 4 events in pygame.event.get. So we are getting all the events in PyGame. Now, next step. We need to check if, what we're looking for right now is we need to do something to set our running to false if we try to close the game. So of course, if I hover over this red X and I actually click on it, it's going to close this window. Well, we want that to work in PyGame, but without doing what we're about to do, that won't work. So the event for this close button is pygame.quit, but not this pygame.quit. I'll show you what it is here. So we need to say if event.type. So if whatever event it is, if the type of that event is equal to pygame.quit, capital quit like this without parentheses is what's called a, I think it's a surface quit. So this is inside of the surface, or on our surface, which is our window, if we try to quit here. That's what that is. That's the pygame.surface quit. So, because you can close a program through, let's say, command prompt, and I can close my editor here, my PyCharm editor. That is not a surface quit. That would be calling this. However, the user isn't able to do that as easily as they are able to just reach up here and click on that red X. So we want to make it so they can do that. And that's what this is doing. It's basically check if the red X button is pressed. Then, if it is, what are we going to do? Well, if that button is pressed, we simply want to set running equal to false. That will end PyGame. Because it's going to stop this loop, and it's going to come out here and kill PyGame, which will kill our screen object, which is our surface, and end the game. So it's doing the exact same thing, it's just giving the user the feeling that they're the one who did it instead of the code actually doing it. Now, this is going to be ends the loop to end the game. We have like 3 more lines left to write, and then our screen is done and we can test it and I'll show you how it all looks. But before we do that, we need to go add one more thing to our data window over here. And that'll be nice and simple. Down here on line 5, I want you to create a dictionary called colors. Oop, that's not a dictionary, that is. The first key of the dictionary, make it say black. Set it equal to the value 0, 0, and 0. So what we just did here is created the color black with the value 0, 0, 0. Now, if you're not familiar with colors, especially the ones that we have here, they're called RGB colors. So if I pull up my color picker right here, it might be a little small and a little hard to see on the screen, I'm not sure. But we have red, green, and blue values. So as we adjust all of these, they change the numbers here to give you that color. If I select the color black, it is red 0, green 0, and blue 0. This is how we work with colors in PyGame. If you were on, if you were using HTML doing web development, you would use hex values, which you can see change around as we go as well. And then HSV values are used, I think, in Photoshop quite a bit. But we want R, G, and B. That's what we're working with right now. So you can see 0, 0, and 0 give us the color black. And that is why, oops, I don't know why I closed that. I'm going to need that when I come in here to do stuff later. There we go. That is why we have 0. Oh, I messed something up in here. That's why we have 0, 0, 0. Did I write it like that, or did I somehow manage to screw that up? I don't know. But anyways, colors equals black, 0, 0, and 0. And why not? For the heck of it, let's just throw in white really quick, because that's a really easy one to do. And it's 255, 255, and 255. So now we have two colors in our dictionary. Now, the reason we do this is because we need something to fill this screen in with. Right now, PyCharm that we're in has a toolbar up here, which is a gray background. Wow, I can't talk. A gray background with some buttons over the top of it. It's got another gray background with some tabs, another one, and then it's got a white background in here that we type on. So we're basically going to set a background for our screen. And the way to do that is simply type screen.fill. We're going to fill in our background, but we need a color for this. So again, our color is in our data folder, so if we type in data and click dot, we're going to get some options here. I'm going to use the arrow keys to come down to colors and hit enter again, and then open up basically the square brackets for the list, because we need to give it one more object. Our data colors folder has two dictionary keys, black and white. So we want to fill it, I'm going to say black first, just because I like the way that a game looks when it's got the black screen filled in. So we're going to fill the game window with the color, black. Alright, there we go. Last thing, very last thing, if we come up here, event loop's done, and graphics are almost done. We just need to do one more thing. We need to make sure that the graphics and everything can kind of be updated. And we're going to do this by updating our display. So pygame.display, display.update. The reason that we have to update the display, which is the display / screen, is because if we draw a box on here and then move the box 20 pixels, if you're not updating this, you're going to have two boxes, but only one of them is the actual box. Because if you think about it, it would be like when we move an object in Python, we're just changing its X position and drawing a new copy of it. So pygame.display.update is clearing everything on the screen and then allowing everything above it to be ran again. So if we're drawing a rectangle in right here, if we draw a rectangle here, and then we draw the same rectangle, draw the rectangle moved 100 pixels, then we're going to see two rectangles on the screen. But we moved the rectangle in the code, and we don't want to see it more than once. So what pygame.display.update will do is say, okay, well, we're going to draw the rectangle the first time, and then we're going to clear everything on the screen, fill it with black again, and draw the rectangle moved 100 pixels. So it allows us to only see the rectangle in one place because we're clearing everything on the screen. At this case, we're going to set it to 30 times a second. So 30 times every second, we're going to clear everything on the screen and draw it again. How do we set it to 30 times a second? By saying clock.tick 30. That's just going to make sure we cannot do. We're going to limit our updates to 30 times per second. Now, we need to, up here, right-click on Game and scroll down to where it says Run Game. Because I'm pretty sure we're done with our code. If everything worked out, you should see a black window pop up with the title Maze Game, or whatever title you decided to give it, that is 800 pixels wide by 600 pixels tall. We know that it is these dimensions because if we close it out really quick, and there you go, we made sure everything worked, because it closed properly and we didn't have any errors down here. So let's throw a little X in our checklist. So if we come over here to data, it's because our window is 800 by window scale by 600 by window scale. And since window scale is 1, it's 800 by 600. Now, a shortcut in PyCharm, if game over here is selected, you can just click the run button again. And the game will pop right back up. So there you go. It only took about 20 minutes to do, but we have successfully created our window for our maze game. Now, last comment, a dictionary for colors. Alright, that will be it for episode 2 And in the next episode we come into, we're going to look at how to make a player. We're going to create a player without using a sprite. We're going to create him as an object, teach you a little bit about classes and objects, and then we're going to create walls as a sprite because it'll make it easier since they're all going to be the same. And that'll teach you how to use sprites and entity parsing and that kind of thing. So, for now, this is everything. If you have any errors, make sure to leave a comment in the comments below with the error that you have. I'll get an email notification on my phone as soon as the comment comes in, and I'll get back to you on it as soon as I can. If it's not something that I can respond to you in the YouTube comment to tell you what you did wrong, then I will meet with you in either the second hour or the third hour programming class, depending on what class it is, and we'll go over it and see where you're at. But for now, that is the end of episode 2. I don't think there's anything else to be done in this one, so we'll see you in the next one. Happy coding.